Hello, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Ben Snyder.
And I'm Maurice Severson, and we want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you are not alone. Right here in East Tennessee, you can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and people curious about living a life free of supernatural beliefs.
This is a call-in show, however, we only have one phone line. So if you can't get through, we invite you to tweet your questions to us at FFTVKnox.
The Rationalists of East Tennessee monthly activities are on the first and third Sunday mornings, are usually lectures with lively roundtable discussions. The second Sunday is a book club, and the fourth Sunday is a reflections gathering, which is a potluck afternoon gathering at a member's home.
The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun meetup, often at a local bar or eatery. Tonight's meetup is at Barley's for happy hour after the show for food, drink, and conversation. You can go ahead and head down there now if you'd like. At either location, just look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion. And on Friday, we will meet for happy hour at the Phil House atop Bearden Hill.
Today is January 29th, and we will be talking about a subject that came up on a previous show. A caller had asked us, if you're atheist and you don't believe in God, then why do you spend so much time talking about him? Why do you even care? And today our answer is because religion is harmful. But first, in the news.
Today there's, not today, but this month in January, there was a birthday of Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine is called the father of the American Revolution for his popular pamphlet, Common Sense. In relative proportion to the population of the 13 American colonies which were to form our nation, Common Sense has the largest sale and circulation of any book published in the history of the United States.
Paine was a deist. A lot of times people will say, oh, well, our founding fathers were Christians, but a lot of them weren't. Thomas Paine is one of those who was not a Christian. He's a deist, and deists are defined this way by Wikipedia. It's a belief that reason and observation of the natural world are sufficient to determine the existence of God, accompanied with the rejection of revelation and authority as a source of religious knowledge. So they didn't believe in the revealed parts of the idea that there was a God.
Right. After succeeding in sparking the American Revolution against the rule of King George III, King of England, and a head of the Anglican Church, Paine also sought to spark a rebellion against the tyranny of Judeo-Christian Turkish belief. He wrote the book, The Age of Reason, in which we find, quote, I do not believe in the creed professed by the Jewish Church, by the Roman Church, by the Greek Church, by the Turkish Church, by the Protestant Church, nor by any church that I know of. My own mind is my own church. All national institutions of churches, whether Jewish, Christian, or Turkish, appear to me no other than human inventions, set up to terrify and enslave mankind and monopolize power and profit.
That's a great quote, and it's very much as true today as it was then. We invite viewers to call in with any Thomas Paine quotes or questions. The number's on the screen, and we'll move on to the main part of our show, the religion is harmful.
Sure. Few news stories to go along with the topic. Iran recently sentenced a man named Saeed Abedini, an American pastor, to 8 years in prison on charges of attempting to undermine state security by creating a network of Christian churches in private homes. This is a commonplace thing in very strong Islamic nations where they do not enjoy a secular government where no religion is in charge and can, make rules against other religions. But this of course is not just limited to Muslim nations. This is also true in Christian nations and such.
This is the reason we prefer to have our government separate from the churches.
Right, and it's, like for example, the nation of Uganda over in Africa just recently passed a bill that's been nicknamed the Kill the Gays bill, where homosexuals can be put to death for simply being who they are.
And we have a caller. Hello, caller. Are you on the show? Can we get a name or a nickname for you?
Dave.
Dave?
Yeah.
Hi, Dave.
I was calling I usually talk to the other guy that's there. I can't call his name, but I was wondering if y'all ever heard of the Hall of Shame.
Yes, I think I remember you calling in before and talking about that. I think I was here.
Did you ever Google it, or did anybody ever look it up?
I know I tried looking it up. I'm not sure I succeeded, but someone here, Larry, who's been on the show before, may have been on the show when you called him before.
Yeah.
He says he managed to find it, where it's a website about pastors and such who do wrong.
Crooked preachers on the take, taking money.
Right, taking money.
And there's a list of them on there, and it goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I need to know. I'll listen to y'all every Tuesday.
Oh,
All right,
excellent.
well, thank you.
Glad you enjoy watching us. And thank you for mentioning it again. And
Okay,
thank you for
thank
sharing
you.
that. All right, you take care, Dave.
Bye-bye.
So, yeah.
Yeah, certainly the abuse of power and money is one of the things that is one of those ways that we feel religion is harmful.
Right.
Any institution, especially an institution without outside oversight, is going to be a lot more prone to those kinds of abuses of power and certainly of money.
Right, and that's true of even non-religious institutions.
Yeah.
See another good example. The Russian government is asking their parliament to amend a bill that would set jail terms for, quote, offending religious feeling, end quote. Which would introduce sentences of up to 3 years for insult to religion and up to 5 years for damage to religious property. And this isn't a blanket protection of all groups, actually. It's only for religions that the state recognizes as legitimate. And this comes in the wake of the band named Pussy Riot, who had spoke against Putin.
Yeah, they did a performance in a historic church, I believe, and they were arrested, but I think they've been processed through. And
2 of them are currently serving time.
yeah. But this is another law to try to increase, punishment for people for speaking out.
Right, or speaking any opinion that they would like to
Suppress.
put down. Yes. Let's see. A man named Maurice Blanchard, a gay Baptist preacher, and his partner Dominique James were arrested in Kentucky for refusing to leave a county clerk's office after it had closed, after they had attempted to obtain a marriage license, knowing full well, of course, that they would be refused. It's stuff like this where you see in our society that people are being refused equal treatment. Because certain people hold dogmatically to the position that, say, for example, homosexuality is an abomination, and that anyone who is like that doesn't deserve same rights as a heterosexual.
And of course, the only justification that most people use is, well, because the Bible says so. And again, that's why, it's like, well, okay, we're atheists. Why do we care about, what the Bible says? And that's my answer, is because even though this is not a Christian nation in terms of its founding, in terms of its constitution, as far as population, obviously, it is, by a slight margin, a Christian nation, but it is not a democracy in that sense, in that the majority rules. If that was the case, then we would have had a woman president and many, many more women members of Congress, because, of course, women are the majority. Women have always been the majority. But we don't say that. We don't say, oh, well, you have to have more women in Congress because we're the majority.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. But a lot of people will say, well, this is a Christian nation. And it's like, well, in one respect, in terms of population, you're right.
Yeah.
But in terms of the way the country is run, no, that's not what the Constitution says.
Right.
And what the Constitution does say is that religion is separate, and that's to protect both religion and government. And when you ask people, well, why should, gay people not be allowed to have their rights? They say, well, because it's an abomination. And you say, well, why do you know that? And they say, well, because it's in the Bible.
Yeah, and there's another interesting case where Texas public schools are teaching end times theology and creationism, failing to adhere to the guidelines laid out in House Bill 1287, which was passed in 2007, to improve the quality of elective Bible courses while protecting the religious freedom of students. And in high school, I took a Bible course, and I am, even as an atheist now, as a Christian then, even as an atheist now, I would say that it was taught fairly well, where it only stuck to, say, the time of the kings of Israel, which there's much more archaeological evidence to support. But in the case of Texas public schools, they're not sticking to such guidelines. Instead, it says here, among the findings from the Reading, Writing, and Religion 2 Texas Public School Bible courses in 2011 to 2010 study, students are being taught that the Bible is inerrant, that it is without contradiction, that it's written essentially by God through people, and that quote, giving God his rightful place in the national life of this country has provided a rich heritage for all its citizens, end quote. That Jesus Christ's resurrection was historical, not mythological. And that there is a media conspiracy against archaeological proofs of the Bible, such as Moses' Exodus and the crossing of the Red Sea. And that the Bible is, quote, one of the most accurate history books in the world, end quote. And that the students are also taught they are taught end times theology, and that they may be living in the last days. And this is a very gross breach of the separation of church and state, where a religion is kind of shoehorning itself into the lives of students and trying to indoctrinate children and make them have to learn a particular religion's beliefs as if they're facts. While at the same time attacking legitimate, science and such that has shown that the Bible's claims about, history are not true, and that the Bible, and even history, it also affects history and literature because it treats the Bible as though it's not mythological, and it tries to gloss over a lot of the real problems that the Bible presents historically. And
which part of the Bible do you say is the truth?
Right.
There are
contradictions.
Yeah, there are contradictions in things as straightforward as numbers.
Right.
Something there's a part where it traces Jesus' lineage from the times of I think it's King David, and one of them has 23 generations, and one of them has 41 generations, and it's like, that's a big discrepancy. So which book of the Bible are you going to teach is the right book to teach? And of course, this is just completely against not only atheism and skepticism and everything else that's reasonable and rational that belongs in a public school. That's fine if you want to teach that in a parochial school. But this is a public school with public school funding. And the courses are not meant to be teaching Sunday school lessons. Right, and these are violations of other people's religions who are religious believers. Including the students. Yeah. And their parents. If your children went to school and they were taught that Jesus was not the Savior, that he was a prophet, but that the prophet Muhammad is the final prophet, and Allah is the name of God, most Christians would be very upset at that, and they would be crying, hey, this is a violation of the church and state separation that is guaranteed to me in the Constitution of the United States. Yeah. And if you're going to cry it for yourself, then you have to cry it for everybody else. Yeah. That's the great thing about this. It protects other faiths as well as people who have no faith. Right. And we have a caller. Hello, caller. Can we get a name or a nickname?
Mark.
Mark? Hello, Mark.
Hello. My name is Mark, and let me say, first of all, to excuse my speech impediment, but I did have a cerebral embolism, so I speak with a little slur.
Okay. Okay, that's fine.
I have a question. I just turned on to you guys, and I see atheism, and I'm wondering, is this
are you attempting to collect atheism or atheist, or are you just making this show set? And excuse me once again, my embolism.
Okay.
Are you recruiting atheists, or are you just commenting on atheism?
I can speak to that. I don't think we're recruiting anybody, but you know, if there's someone out there who's having doubts, certainly I don't think most of us are knocking on anyone's door and passing out, you know, a copy of On the Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. But if someone is curious, it's very difficult. Knoxville was recently rated as the single most religious city
but Bible-minded, meaning that they read the Bible weekly and that they affirm the Bible's accuracy.
Yeah, and certainly if you're curious about Baptist or Methodist faith or Judaism or Catholicism, you can look up in the phone book and find a church of that denomination and go to ask a pastor, and you know where to find them. Whereas atheists, it's hard to find us sometimes. A lot of people may be curious, and certainly we feel that the more information people have, whether it's about race or beliefs or ethnicity, the more information people have, the less fear there is. A lot of people feel like, oh, well, atheists are bad people who are there trying to steal our children and you know, have religion outlawed, and we're not. It's a way for people to get to know some atheists a little bit better and understand what it is that we're all about, kind of a deal, for me.
Does that answer your question?
Can I add that I am a Christian, and even as a Christian and a believer in Christ and Jesus and God, there's still hope is still a limit that leaves a weight perhaps never reached. Now, as an atheist, what hope do you have?
Okay, I have hope. Well, I hope for a lot of things in my life. Like, I hope to be able to be financially secure. I hope to be healthy. I hope to be able to enjoy my life, enjoy the people in my life. I mean, I have a lot of hopes in that sense. If you mean, like, is that the kind of hope you're meaning, or are you meaning something else?
Well, I just mean in general, hope for our economy, hope for our politicians, hope for our people, hope for our health, hope for just us as human beings.
Yes,
I
do.
Hope for yourself and your future, your conquest, the things you want out of life, your health. My health is very bad, but I'm still so hopeful because I am a Christian.
Well,
if I was atheist, I don't think I could go on in life because I would not have any hope.
Well,
it depends. I was not a Christian in my upbringing, really. But for me, I did believe when I was a child, and I had some real difficult times, and it made me question, what did I do to deserve this? If there's a loving God out there, and I'm a kid and I didn't do anything wrong, that was part of when I started examining my faith as a child, was that how can these horrible things be happening, and God is watching and he does nothing. So for me, that's actually where my questioning of faith started. But yeah, I have great hope that for the greater knowledge of our society, of greater acceptance and tolerance of people of all faiths, of no faith. I have great hope for the science and information, the preservation of our planet. I don't have hopes for myself after my death, because I don't believe that anything exists for me after my death. But that means to me that my life is even more precious. So I try to do the things that I hope for right now. So I, give to certain charities because I think they are good and worthy causes. Things like that. We get a lot of people because they feel that their hope is derived from their faith. But to us, all of us have hopes, both big and large, for, our country and our worlds, and they don't come from our faith because we have no faith in, an outside force. But yeah, we get that question fairly frequently in one form or another, but it's always good to hear because each atheist has a different answer for that.
I grew up a Christian. I only deconverted like 3 years ago, I want to say. And by the end of my being a Christian, I was very depressed. Had very little hope for humanity, very little hope for most of humanity because most of humanity was going to hell. And I became very depressed because I believed that humanity should just end itself because that would save future generations from having to go to hell. And that to me was a very, in hindsight, and even then, very hopeless outlook on things. But for me, as an atheist, to say more about that, I progressed from there to coming to the conclusion that the God I believed in was evil, which was a very hopeless situation to be in, that I believed that going to hell was preferable than going to heaven, because I didn't like this God. This God to me was a moral monster, a terrible creature that had very little understanding of what it's like to be human even, what it's like, had very little concern for those who suffer, and very full of himself with regard to his ego. And so it was, and after that, after studying the Bible more and studying some basic things about philosophy and some things about science, I came to the conclusion that there is no evidence for any gods of any kind, of any religion, and so I'm actually much more hopeful than I was, and I say even than I ever was even before the end of my Christianity, because there's no longer this massive, amount of depression I had about how many people would be going to hell for the simple crime of not getting it, not understanding something. Does that make sense, Mark?
Are you still with us?
It does, and I understand there are so many questions, and most will probably...
Hold on, Mark. I'm sorry. There's a volume problem. They're fixing it now.
And I also believe that there are many hiccups in the Bible.
Okay, could you repeat that part?
I'm sorry, we had volume trouble.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you now.
You said something about different parts of the Bible.
Okay. What I was saying is, as a Christian, I also realize there are things in the Bible that I don't coincide or believe in. Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden, it all seems kind of fairy-tale-ish. But there are many things in there that even if they aren't true, you have to have something. Humanity has to have something to latch onto. What happens when a loved one or yourself revives from a critical or terminal illness, or you come across an envelope with $300 and you have a $300 bill that's due, or you get a promotion at work? Who do you think? I thank God for making 2 traffic lights in a row, because there has to be someone while you're here on earth. I mean, you may die and think that's the end of it. There's no heaven. But while you're here on earth, you have to have something. I'll tell you, and the Lord Jesus Christ is, you can't depend on Obama or your parents. There has to be something supernatural in order for us to continue. What if it all was just a hoax? What if a bunch of people got together years ago and said, hey, we have to buy the system, to keep people from killing and doing this.
We have laws that do that.
Commandment.
Sir, Mark.
Despite that.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
Mark, I was going to say, guy here in the audience made an excellent point that, preachers got together and planned on killing people, but even before Christianity, there were laws about not killing each other. And the God of the Bible, of Christianity, according to the Old Testament, which is tied to the New Testament, ordered the killing of lots and lots of people, including children, pregnant women, all sorts of people.
And throughout history, historically accurate, the church.
But murder is just one aspect. There's so many other.
But the church has ordered millions of murders.
Is one of the many. The biggest crime is the crimes of one's mind and the crimes you have in your thought patterns.
Of what? I'm sorry, Mark, say that again?
More warming to oneself and one's spirit than the actual act of the crime. And that's what the Bible, that's what Jesus said, that's what God is all about. It's just keeping us pretty much sane.
Well,
because the world without this, man, I wouldn't want to live in it at all.
We feel pretty much that, it's not the law. Like, I talk to people about decriminalizing marijuana. Mm-hmm. And I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't drink alcohol. If they decriminalize marijuana tomorrow everywhere in this country, I would not go and smoke marijuana.
Right.
That's because I don't want to.
Right.
I don't want to kill anybody. I don't want to, murder large groups of people. That's not what is keeping me from doing it. The fact that it's against the law to kill people is not what keeps me from killing people. The fact that I'm pretty sure that if you found some sort of conclusive proof that there's no God tomorrow, you probably still wouldn't go out and kill anyone.
Right.
Because you have an innate sense inside yourself, just as Ben does and I do, and most everyone that we know, that's the wrong thing to do.
Right.
That society, and you're right, society would be pretty bad if everybody thought that that was the right thing to do.
Right.
That you just took what you wanted, you break into people's houses. But it's not fear of prostitution.
Not necessarily the right thing to do, but not necessarily the wrong thing.
Well, the point being that we don't see that there's any reason that you need a supernatural watchdog.
I'm not going to be going and killing people. I'm not going to go and rape people. I'm not going to go and steal things. And I don't believe in God. It wouldn't matter to me if it was legal or not. I have no inclination to do such things. But, it just seems like to believe in a God seems very superfluous. It's unnecessary. And, I don't think that people losing their beliefs necessarily leads them to do evil things. In fact, more often than not, we hear about people who are believers, not who don't undergo any sudden shift in their beliefs, going out and doing harm, or in history, in order to preserve their beliefs, doing harm to other groups who don't agree with them.
There's a good quote that pops up sometimes on the internet with a picture of something, but
well, tell me, how do you explain the
How do you explain
the masses of people that you see on TV, you see at church on Sundays, you see running our country, running our school places, just running the world? Granted, there are different religions that worship a different power.
Yeah.
But how do you explain all of us who do believe in Him? Are we all just idiots? Is that basically what you're saying? We're just sublime idiots?
Tradition.
Tradition is part of it. Ignorance as well. Like, for example, myself, I was a Christian. I stopped being a Christian when I started studying it more and learning more about the history of the church, the formation of the Bible, and started realizing that there is a far better explanation for how Christianity came to be than that it actually supposedly happened the way Christians typically believe. That the stories are within the Gospels and such are not true, that they are largely made up, and that Jesus was not, in fact, the Christ. He was not the Messiah of the Jewish religion, that the Jewish religion is based upon a lot of old mythologies, and not only their own mythologies, but borrowed and evolved from other ancient religions of the day that no longer are celebrated.
And as far as why there's religion at all,
Yeah.
I mean, before, the world can be a really scary place.
Another quick question.
Okay. One more question, Mark, and we've got to let you go and let other people call.
The build down life and humanity, build down to science, as far as it's concerned. So there has to be something. Does it build down in your belief, mankind and humanity, to science?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand your question. Could you repeat it?
Well, I mean, we have to come from something.
Oh,
From somewhere.
Oh, you're asking.
All the animals, all the living creatures on this earth derive from something.
Yes.
It's just not a higher power.
Oh, no. I don't think a higher power had anything.
More of a Big Bang theory.
Well, the Big Bang theory is fact, actually.
Yeah.
It's the Big Bang theory.
It's a scientific theory, which
Right.
is not the same as just, I have an idea.
Right.
You look at the facts, at the evidence, and you observe the universe, and then you say, well, what could have happened that led to what we observe? And the Big Bang theory is the best explanation we have
Right.
that fits that.
That fits
If you
the
had no
evidence.
science, then the answer would be, oh, well, maybe God did it,
Or
and
we
you
don't
would
know.
stop looking. Because,
Or we don't know, which
yeah,
is
or
a
we
better
don't know.
answer, because then you can keep looking.
Yeah.
But Big Bang is as far back as you can go. But with regard to life, if you're asking about life, the diversity you see in life, all the animals and us and all such, we have the theory of evolution, which explains that, for which there is a wealth of evidence currently available that you can access. And for the rise of life, that is the theory of abiogenesis, and there are several theories as to how it could have arisen, so we have more than one possible answer, and we don't know which one's right yet. If any of them, there may be another answer that's correct, and we don't know.
But we appreciate you calling in, and
I have one more adage, because I know you guys probably have to go.
Okay.
I have one more adage, please.
Okay,
Just one more thing.
go ahead.
The heartbeat. There are no outside sources of power for the heartbeat. If you want a car, it has to have an engine. Anything has a source of power. The heartbeat beats and keeps our bodies alive on its own. Well,
It doesn't do it on its own.
Wow, on my head.
The heartbeat does...
Whenever I that's what I always relate to. Go back to one's heartbeat.
well,
The heartbeat is...
Yeah.
All right, we're going to let you go.
we're going to let you go,
But I want to address what you said.
and we'll answer your question. Thanks for calling.
The heartbeat is not the thing that
Yeah, if
keeps
you
us
stop
going.
eating, your heart won't beat.
Right. But you've got to breathe. Your heart has to pump blood. You have to be living. Now, apart from those two things, you have to be in a good temperature environment. Gosh, there's so much. I'm not even able to list all the things
Yeah, I was
possible
going to say, get down to mitochondria.
that you need.
But
Yeah,
we're going to take a little quick break here. For the
And a
program.
car, by the way, isn't a self-sustaining thing either. The
No,
engine
unfortunately, you
requires
need
a lot of
gasoline.
and oil and all sorts of things to keep it running.
So if you want to do that, or in case you're just tuning in,
Go
this
ahead.
is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. It's funded jointly by them and by individual contributions, most every Tuesday, if the county commission agrees with us. The shows are live from 5 to 6 on Community Access TV, and you can also see it streaming live online outside the Knoxville area. Go to ctvknox.org.
This is a call-in show, and we are live today, January 29th. And viewers can call in to the number on the screen or tweet them to us at FFTV Knox. The Atheist Society of Knoxville, or ASK, is a fun meetup for evening happy hours for fun, food, drink, and conversation. Ask's purpose is to supply a venue for community, camaraderie, and outreach to atheists, agnostics, freethinkers, and other like-minded persons in the Tennessee area. And should we take the call, or do we need to run the video?
Okay.
We'll take the caller. All right, we have a caller. Hello, caller. Could we get a name or nickname?
No, just Hannah.
Hannah?
Hi.
Hi. How are you doing today?
It's just Hannah.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Hey, I was just wondering, you know, you're talking about atheism, and I was a born Christian. That's what my parents believed. And I was just wondering what you think about morals and ethics. Like, where do you think those came about? Like, you know, we could just be walking around and killing people, and it's like, oh, what's the big deal? But, you know, if you don't believe in a higher power, where does moral and ethics come from?
Well, I think that even if you believe in a higher power, you could walk around and kill people, because if there's a higher power, all that it boils down to then is whether or not you care and whether or not it cares. Like deists, deists or theists who believe there is a God who doesn't care about us, who has no interest in our affairs. There's a higher power that doesn't have any effect on whether or not your people behave morally. Morality, I think, is something that arises, in ethics, by the way, that arises when people live together. People have to deal with each other. Because if you're alone and living alone, away from anyone else, you know, like a mountain person or something, you know, well away, a hermit, you may not have any concern for what does or does not harm someone else because you have no one else around you. However, when you have two or more people living in the same space, you will have to come up with ways that there will be problems arise, conflicts, and you're going to need ways of resolving that, and rules will inevitably follow, where you have to come to agreements.
I guess I'm just, you know, where I'm coming from is where does that hesitance come from wanting to kill someone else or wanting to harm them, you know, like, what is that stirs in us that's like, oh, that's wrong, or that's right.
Certainly, we learn those things through our societies. Before Christianity, there's a prohibition against murder of your own kind, at least, in almost every society. And we also see this in animal societies. So most religions tell you that humans are the only creatures that have a soul, but very few creatures go around killing their own kind.
Right.
So wolves don't believe in God, but they have a very structured hierarchy of their society where they set out who's the leader, who are the followers, what are the appropriate behaviors for those things, and they teach their cubs, just like human beings teach their children, this is your place, this is the rules for living where we live, and they vary widely depending on you know, the laws of the land, on the religious tenets.
And I totally understand that. I understand, you know,
you're asking about
through centuries of living, you know.
But almost all, if you ask
those rules came about, but like, where did they come about? Like, why?
Okay. Yes.
Why?
Okay. Well, it occurred to me as the research was starting that there was something else to mention here. There are people who are psychopaths, sociopaths, and such, and and it is known that they lack a certain amount of empathy, and they've actually traced it to brain activity. That when a person who is not psychopathic or sociopathic is considering whether or not to do something, a certain part of a regular person's brain will light up, and they will hesitate. They will think, "Should I do this?" Versus a psychopath or sociopath whose brain doesn't necessarily light up, and they are more likely just to go ahead and do it and not worry about that hesitancy.
Where I think this is a good place to bring in Darwin. Darwin says that it's the survival of the species is based on characteristics that make it easier for you to survive. are going to be passed on. So if there was a group of Neanderthals out on the plains, obviously the one Neanderthal who's crashing in the skull of everybody he comes into contact with is not going to be able to successfully find a mate and pass on his genes. So that will naturally select against that trait.
Right.
Being a sociopath or psychopath is going to be naturally selected against.
Right. So people who get along with one another are more likely to succeed because a group succeeds better than a lone individual.
We're not particularly capable human beings. We're not particularly strong or fast when you compare us to other animals. But if we get together and we form a group to hunt together and to gather and feed our children and protect ourselves, then we're going to be a lot more successful. So those traits were selected by the natural selective breeding process.
Is this addressing what you're wanting to know?
A lot of sense, and I would love to call back in and ponder what y'all said, and then, you know.
I'd like to also invite you right now, in fact, if you'd like to go, tonight there is a meetup going on at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria, where we and a whole bunch of other people here in the studio and out, not here, will be, and you can come and just hang out and talk if you'd like. And it's every Tuesday, so if this Tuesday's not good, you're welcome to make it some other time.
It's every Tuesday?
Every Tuesday starts about 5 to 5:30 and goes as late as people stay.
Yep.
And like I call in, or?
It's a bar, but it's not an above 21 bar or anything. It's come in and sit and have a Coke and a pizza or whatever you want. But we're right on the right hand side as you go in.
Yeah.
There's a very large banquette, and we are
tables,
the entire banquette, and sometimes are stealing tables from wherever we can find them. But yeah, and the show is on. We love to have callers. And,
so you're more than welcome
visitors.
to call back in and talk.
So. Oh yeah. Well, thanks, and I would love to keep calling back. I'm very interested in this stuff, and thanks for chatting with me.
All right.
Thank you, Hannah. All right, take care. Okay, so I believe we were going to try to play the video for the Ask group.
For the scientific method over supernatural beliefs? Are you concerned about religious leaders and organizations imposing their values and rules on your body, your family, and the rest of our society? Well, take comfort in the fact that you're not alone. The Rationalists of East Tennessee meets weekly for fellowship and provides a forum for people who support skeptical thinking and rational discussion of these and other issues. To find out more information or to find out about our next meeting, visit us on the web at www.rationalist.org. If you live in or around the Knoxville area and are questioning your religious beliefs or simply believe in one less God than everyone else, well, you're not alone. The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun and friendly group of people just like you that meets twice a week at a bar or restaurant. We meet every Tuesday night following the show at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria for happy hour. You'll find our group either inside or on the patio. Look for Richard Dawkins' silver-jacketed book, The God Delusion, standing upright on the table. On Fridays, we meet at Agave Azul or the Beard and Beer Market. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't. We all question what we believe at one point in our lives. If this is the time for you, come join us for food, drink, conversation, and fun.
All right. So that was both ads. The first one, I believe, for RET, which is the Rationalists of East Tennessee, which have Sunday activities involving lively presentations and discussions of subjects topical and timeless. Once a month, they get together for a book club. You need not have read the book to attend, but of course it helps. So we have 15 minutes left, well, a little less than 15 minutes now left in the show. If anyone would like to call in and chat with us, you're more than welcome to. We're discussing why it is we care about the subjects of God, religion, and as we say on the screen, we believe religion to be harmful.
One of the callers, we touched on a point, and I was reminded of a quote that I see sometimes where it says that you can get good people to do good things without God. And you can get bad people to do bad things without God. But to get good people to do bad things, you really need God. Religious wars, for example. The case in Uganda where they've passed a law saying that they're going to execute people for being gay. Honor killings, people being stoned to death for being raped, for being a victim of a crime. Because their religious beliefs say that that's what the punishment is. And things like that, to me, that's one of those cases where it's fairly clear that religion is harmful.
Right.
And that's not just other people's religions. That's the religions that are here in this country. That's Christianity. People are being deprived of their rights. But they're also, I mean, there's, Arizona is, one of the lawmakers is trying to pass essentially a religious test to get your high school diploma. He's saying you have to swear
an oath
to uphold the Constitution, but also you have to swear under
God.
So help me God.
So help me God. You have to say that in order to receive your diploma, even though you may not believe in God.
And that's after you've done all of the work and everything. You've earned that diploma, and they're trying to deprive you of that. In this state, neither of us can hold office because in the Tennessee state constitution, it says that if you do not believe in God, you cannot be a holder of an office in the state of Tennessee, which of course is completely unconstitutional, but the only way that you are allowed to challenge a law's constitutionality is to have the case arise, and since no open atheist has been elected to an office in the state of Tennessee yet, hopefully, it means that we can't test the law.
Right.
But
there's another, there's plenty of good examples of harm by religion. You have the fire bombings of abortion clinics, the executions of abortion doctors. You have the epidemic of child rape and molestation within the Catholic Church that is international, both here and across the world.
And we have a caller. Hi, caller. You're on the air with us. Can we get a name or nickname?
This is Hannah.
Oh, hi back. Hello, Hannah.
Did you have something else you wanted to say or ask?
I'm sorry, I keep watching the show, and I had another question.
Okay.
Cool.
I was just, I was thinking of a society without a higher power, and how that would affect just, our law system and everything. Like, oh, well, why is it wrong to do that? And I just was wondering what y'all were thinking. I know I'm calling back.
Okay. Well, first of all, there are plenty of nations over in Europe right now that are mostly atheists. Like the majority of the population is atheist, so they have large atheist populations. And their nations do not acknowledge God for the most part. There's an atheist prime minister in Australia. There's here in America, we are a secular nation that officially does not recognize, God. But with regard to higher power can also refer to anything that can enforce a law. We have government, and while government is not perfect, and governments can be dismantled, can be built, they do enforce law, and they are a higher power than the individual citizens. And so laws still get passed, they still get written because, God or no God, we still have to face the issues of murder, theft, abortion, marriage rights, etc.
Education.
Right, and education. And we have to deal with those things one way or the other. And how one thinks about that, as an individual, that may be affected by whether or not you believe there is a God, but whether there's a God or not, you're still going to have to deal with other people.
Yeah. Well, okay, this is kind of an out there question, but what about dreams? Like, the unconscious, so where does that come from? Like, do you think that is just our brains turning off and
there's a lot of research going on the dream state,
thinking
whether
weird things, or is it like,
we know that a lot of it can be problem solving that's in a different, we know that our brain acts differently when you're asleep than when you're awake. They're not sure, scientists are not sure of what the function of dreams are.
Right.
They know that generally, if normal human beings are deprived of the dream state for a very long time, your brain will start dreaming even while you're awake and cause hallucinations.
Yeah.
well, yeah, but I mean, like, like I've had situations where, I've had grandparents that have died, and I've, seen them in the spirit. Is that, do y'all think that's a hallucination, or? But I don't think it is. I for sure don't.
Well, I would think, my personal opinion on that would be, I would think that is not actually them appearing to you. I would think that is your mind constructing something out of your memories of them.
Yeah, it would be wish fulfillment. You want that to happen very much, and therefore, to make yourself feel better, your brain provides you with that.
Okay, wish fulfillment. Okay.
Possibly.
Like
I mean, that's one explanation. Things are pretty real to me when I see stuff like that.
A lot of dreams can feel pretty real. Like, people have things like night terrors, and of course the opposite, where it's a nice dream where it feels so real. I had a coworker who dreamed one night he'd worked a full 8 hours, and it felt like a full 8 hours when he dreamed it. And it was terrible for him because he had to work that next morning. And he felt like he got no sleep at all because it felt so real. But some dreams don't feel very real, some do. It could be that your mind is sorting information in its downtime. We don't really know.
All we really know of reality is what our brain tells us anyway. While reality may actually be out there, all we know of it is our perceptions of it, which is why when you ask two people, well, what happened? What did you see? They may tell you completely different things, which is why in a courtroom...
Or with slight differences.
In a courtroom, that is one of the least reliable pieces of evidence is eyewitness testimony, because what you think or what you expect is going to happen will heavily influence what your perception of reality is. There's some really neat videos online and a lot of research being done in this field. There's one about people bouncing a ball and passing a ball back and forth, and there's a man in a gorilla suit that just walks into the picture, and people are...
in a what?
A man in a gorilla
dressed
suit.
As in a gorilla suit. He'll walk in the picture, and you'll be busy watching so much. You will not. You don't notice him, and when you go back to watch the video again, and you're told to look for it, you see it, and you're like, "How did I miss that?"
Yeah.
But back to the dream thing specifically, though, the thing is that when it comes to seeing someone who passed away, say like you say grandparents,
because I've seen it.
Sure, you've seen them in your dreams, and the thing is...
no, not in my dreams, while I've been awake.
Okay.
Oh.
Were you in bed, like that kind of...
No, I wasn't in bed. I was awake.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You can want something very, very badly, and
where your mind will just create it.
We know that happens.
You need that closure, and your brain will say, okay, here's comfort.
I'm not trying to...
Okay, I mean, have y'all ever experienced that?
I personally have not, but I would...
Okay.
But I just want to say that, not trying to say that necessarily was not what, not them appearing. What I'm saying is, how would you know? Like, I'd be curious how you would be able to tell whether or not it was just your brain giving you what you want versus...
Yeah, I can understand that.
So that's where I am.
I guess when you go through an experience like that, it's kind of hard to explain, I
Sure.
just felt like that person's presence was there with me. But it could, you know, y'all are saying it could be a manifestation. So
right, it could be. Yeah, I mean, it really could be, because you know our brains are not, you know, perfect machines that function, you know, perfectly, and you know, don't let us see things that aren't there.
But if the point is, it made you feel better. And that's the important thing. It's like when you see psychics on television.
Right.
I think if they're not doing harm and they're bringing closure to people, if they're doing it for free, obviously, I have a lot more, you know, respect for what they're doing, because they're making people feel at peace, which they desperately need. And that's one of the functions that religion gives people, is this idea that, you know, I had a fight with someone and then they died, and now I feel horrible because I'm never going to be able to talk to them again. And
yeah, and I can see psychologically.
Yeah, it's very comforting to believe that. It's not what we particularly believe, because we see no evidence for it. But I think of all the atheists I know, if there could be one thing that would be the best if religion was true, it would be that if there is an afterlife and we could see the people that we loved again, that would be great. We would all be really happy to say, you know, okay, I'll give up my atheism, because obviously if there's an afterlife, this is awesome, because I get to deal with all the people that I've loved and lost throughout my whole life, and the people that I never...
I know, this is such a bummer.
It is sometimes,
well,
you know?
I don't...
But it makes life here more precious.
For certain people. For myself, I don't consider it a bummer. For me, it's just, I'm not missing... No.
But you wouldn't want...
For me, I'm not really...
Like Charles Darwin, or...
No, the thing is, no, it's... but that's all about what ifs. That's all about what ifs and what could be's, and I don't entertain those things. To me, it's... Right. I've not really lost out on anything because it wasn't really there in the first place. I'm saying I'm not losing out on anything because it wasn't really there in the first place. Right. So for me, I'd rather know, you know, whether or not there is an afterlife, and if there isn't one, I don't really feel that, you know, bad about that.
I'd rather.
It will be terribly sad to lose people who are close to me.
Yeah.
But I'd rather, for me, because to me this is a subjective thing. For some people, you know, and I don't say there's anything. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Reese saying that it would be nice to be able to see them again. For me, I don't have that opinion. For me, I would rather deal with the real loss that I'm dealing with, and because for me, I can better appreciate what I've really lost. If that makes sense.
And I think it makes you live in a different way today. If you believe you're going to see this person later, then
you may make different decisions.
Yeah, you may make different decisions.
That's very neat to think
my mother
about.
had a heart attack, and that was one of the things I said, was that, you know, I didn't need to rush to her bedside and
well, am
sit
I wearing
outside.
You out? Guy on the TV seems like he's really frustrated.
Oh, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm getting motions from people who are saying, "Hey, we need to wind it down because we're down to a minute." No, really, I'm fine.
Okay,
I appreciate. Sorry, we're having some problem. Okay.
Yeah, we're having feedback problems.
but no, really, I appreciate you calling in, and I've actually enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, so have I. So yeah, we'll wind down. We appreciate you calling, and you're certainly welcome to come down to Barley's
or call back
next time. Thanks.
Okay, it is time to start wrapping things up. Get out your pen and paper. This has been Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee.
Please send us feedback. Leave a voicemail at 865-272-9060 or email us at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com.
You can see this show on Tuesdays from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on this Knoxville station at 2200, I believe it's Greenwich Mean Time, or Greenwich, sorry, Mean Time at ctvknox.org.
We'd like to send our thanks to Sam and Jonas and Forrest and Larry and the technical support, and to the staff at CTV Knox and 12.